that didn't do much for the coolness of the Razor. And in fact, so the aura, the identity factors of it, the coolness of the phone, everything just dissipated, and the Razor dropped down into the middle of the Fidelity belly, and actually the Razor is just a non-factor in the cell phone market today. We tried, hockey fans? Let's go Rangers. I know, I realize here I have the wrong team. I live in Washington, D.C., so, you know, we got a little thing going here. Ted Leonsis is the owner of the Washington Capitals hockey team. And Ted is somebody I've known for a very long time. He started out, you know, running a little interactive TV company in Florida when I first met him 15 years ago. Made hundreds of millions of dollars being at AOL, ended up buying the Washington Capitals. When he bought the Washington Capitals, they stunk.
Until they got Ovechkin.
Well, that helped. But what Ted Leonsis realized, and again, he is someone who actually keeps this model in his head. In fact, he talked to me about a little different version of the way his mind describes the same thing. He said he's lived his entire business life realizing that products always have to be either loved or needed. And in his vocabulary, you know, fidelity is loved and convenience is needed. And so he realized, having the Washington Capitals, that nobody was ever going to need the Washington Capitals. So if you're going to have a viable, strong product, you have to drive it up this way. And in fact, what Leonsis focused on was building a team that could be loved. You know, building a team that was not only a good competitive team, but also played an entertaining brand of hockey that people were going to really love. He focused on fidelity. And in fact, the Capitals in the past couple of seasons keep breaking records of attendance and games sold out and all those things. We tried this out talking to the folks who who are involved in the electric car industry, realizing why electric cars have never caught on. Well, electric cars have never been either convenient or high fidelity. They've always been, electric cars up to this point in time have always been something that's extremely inconvenient, right? You know, how you got to fill it up, and you can go only 100 miles or something, and it runs out of battery power. Not very convenient. But also the other mistake where the car companies constantly made electric cars that were kind of like little putt-putt, you know, compact cars. They weren't exactly high fidelity, but they were high cost. What changed everybody's mind about electric cars was the Tesla Roadster. And the reason that it changed everybody's mind was because somebody came out with the idea of, if we're not going to make an electric car, we're going to make one of the hottest sports cars out there, period. So now you finally have a super high fidelity version of an electric car, and that's the one that people have gotten excited about. Let's talk about Apple for a second. Apple has actually done something quite brilliant here, and that it highlights a factor of what can happen in this model, is that an entire company doesn't necessarily have to sit at either fidelity or convenience or one or the other. You know, a company can have brands that exist in different places. It's just a matter of trying to stay out of the middle somewhere. And Apple has actually done a really good job of being at both ends. Because to me, the iPod on iTunes is a super convenient product. It's ubiquitous, it's everywhere, it's easy, it's low cost, relatively low cost. And it's become basically the habit of music. The iPhone is a super fidelity product. It's the high fidelity cell phone. It's the thing that everybody aspires to have. So Apple's actually done a good job of spanning these two sides. Intel's done some of the same here, actually, with trying to make always have the super high-end processor for servers and for super high-end machines, and yet it's done a brilliant job in these last couple of years with the Atom processor, which is what's behind a lot of the netbooks and the really inexpensive laptops that are coming out. So I always had one question about this upper right-hand corner. Can you actually be super high fidelity and super high convenience? It seems like, you know, you build a model like this, and most of the time you say, well, you know, where you want to be is up in that upper right? That's the winning place to be. And the more I research this, and the more I talk to people about it, the more I realize that that's just an unstable place. And the story of Starbucks is a way to illustrate it. So Starbucks started out as a super high fidelity product. It was just a little coffee shop and Howard Schultz bought into in Seattle, and it was, and he started to build it out, and the idea of Starbucks was that it was very cool, right? You walked around with this cup with this green label, it said something about you, it was expensive, it was a little bit exclusive, there was this whole identity thing by going in there and ordering the, double half-calf cappuccino with, something on top. And so it was this experience. Starbucks was this high-fidelity experience. And so the next thing that happened was Starbucks kind of laid that groundwork, and then a CEO came in after Schultz and really started driving really hard towards that direction. So this is what happened, Starbucks started opening on every street corner, and there was one of the great jokes in the Onion was new Starbucks opens in restroom of old Starbucks. And this is the kind of thing that was been going on, and they kept opening store after store, and they were making ice cream, and they had a record label, and they were putting the Starbucks label on everything. And they really thought that they could try to get to this place of high fidelity and high convenience. And they briefly got there for a moment in the mid-2000s, and then something happened. In about 2006, 2007, Starbucks same-store sales started to drop. The stock price started to drop. Starbucks ran into some real problems. It turns out there's a huge amount of tension between fidelity and convenience. They're actually at odds with each other. If you are trying to create a super high-fidelity product, and it's about exclusiveness and coolness and about quality, and you start pushing it into the area of being ubiquitous and everybody's got it, then the coolness is going to wear off, and the lines are going to start forming out the door, so it's not easy or convenient to get any of that cup of coffee. It's a little too expensive to be convenient. Those things are at odds with each other, and in fact, Starbucks, one of the big downfalls of Starbucks was they started putting in these automated coffee making machines that everybody hated because to deal with the volume that they had to bring in. So those things pulled at each other, and it turns out that this place up here is really kind of like an unstable state. You get there briefly, and then it starts to fall apart. And that seems to happen with instance after instance in company after company that you try to apply this to. So I ended up calling that place up there the Fidelity Mirage. And again, that's, it's Bono in your living room is the Fidelity Mirage.